My fall stand-up comedy tour starts soon. Get your tickets at jfcomedytour.com. I added 2 new cities on that website with ticket links. And these are cities that I've never been to before. One of them I tried to go to, but the show got canceled due to a natural disaster. But I'm very excited about these shows. And I would like to imply that it's a clever marketing thing that I just threw the shows on the website without announcing them. But to be honest, I was afraid that I would lose the links. So jfcomedytour.com, you will see down there at the very bottom 2 new cities that I've never been to before and I have not announced yet. And just a reminder to, if I am coming to your city, and you would like to share about that on your social media with your mom's group, with your Catholic group, with whatever, I would really appreciate that because I am a different kind of comedian. And a lot of times when the clubs promote me to their email lists, I have some different topics and messages than the people on their email list are usually used to. So it's hard for me to find my people in these cities, and then the algorithms bury your announcements and all that. So yes, you can always promote my shows to whatever little groups you're in. And I wish you would. It would help me a lot in this day and age of crazy algorithms burying anything that sounds like a promo at all. So get your tickets, jfcomedytour.com. And go ahead and just pause this episode and get them now. Because some of you might change your mind after this episode. Buy your tickets now. They're non-refundable. Buy them now before you hear anything I have to say in this episode, because I might lose a few people on this one. So here we go. We're doing it. It's like jumping off a cliff, like being a cliff, not like in a bad way, like as a cliff diver. That's what this show is. Except sometimes you go splat. That's this show. I promised at the end of the last episode that on this one, I would get to the topic of why it's hard to keep up with your goals. This influencer I follow, Hattie Willoughby. Let's take a listen to a second of her. This is the motivational one. Caitlin, I like her. I like her advice. It's just none of us are probably going to do it for more than a few weeks, but let's take a listen to a few seconds of it.
Decide the goal, then make your environment agree, or stop pretending you want it. Let's stop lying. You are not stuck. You're undecided. You want to work out in the morning? Set the scene tonight. Clothes laid out, shoes by the door, your pre-workout on your...
We get the idea. That advice is out there everywhere, and they're not wrong. I mean, they're not wrong, and that's why I follow accounts like that, because they give me a good kick in the pants to stop being chronically online and scrolling social media and avoiding my life. And actually, Caitlin, while I know this will take a second, pull up that clip that I liked so much from last week of that guy's thoughts when he first wakes up in the morning. I'll play that later. That's really more my vibe. But a lot of you feel bad because you'll do that. You'll say, okay, yes, I'm setting myself up for success. And it all works for 3 or 4 weeks. And then people like Atomic Habits people come back at you and say, well, it doesn't take 28 days to form a habit. It takes 62 days. Have you heard this? That now they're moving the bar on us.
That's not fair.
They used to say 28 days. Now it's like 62 days. Atomic Habits people try to say that you're not being consistent enough and you didn't try hard enough and it gets easier the more you do it. It's not true. We really need villages to reinforce our habits. We really weren't meant to maintain difficult habits alone. And I've talked about this before, but I have a couple new angles on it, and I think it will make you feel better next time you look at the pile of paraphernalia related to the commitments that you did not follow through with. You see your Pilates equipment that looks like torture equipment sitting in the corner of your room, and the running shoes that you only used once, and you feel this shame. And I am here to make the case that this is all very normal. It's all very normal, and there's a way to get around this and figure out how to get stuff done without failing, but realizing it's not your fault and not feeling a bunch of shame. So we will talk about that. We also have some Catholic ghetto drama in it, and it broke right after we recorded the last episode. So I'm just now getting to that. And hopefully everyone will just agree with me because I'm right, but we'll see. Yeah, you know what's funny is my friends from the comedy world who listen to this podcast who are not Catholic, it's actually their favorite when I talk about Catholic drama,
really?
like inside Catholic baseball. You know, I still get comments on the Harrison Butker episode. I wish that the kicker for the Chiefs, I wish he would keep mouthing off because I think I could 10x this podcast listenership if he would just keep mouthing off and I could talk about it every episode. I think that's just a real recipe for success for me. And then I want to tell you, I've had something. I had to part ways with someone. It was a business situation, and it was actually, it's one of the biggest decisions I've ever made in my career. I'm still having these kind of gut check moments of what have I done to my life? I can't believe I did that. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I talk about on the Patreon when I'm promoting the Patreon. This is what we talk about. There are two levels, and the Village Hustle level is where I bring you guys into all the drama and stuff behind me doing what I do. And I gave actual numbers in this episode. Here's the amount of money that was involved, and here's what happened. So here's it. Caitlin, play that clip. This is me making the phone call. I was so stressed, but it's on the Patreon. Take a listen. Okay. I think I just need to hit the dial. I just need to hit it's like, I'm not going to find the perfect words. Here's the thing with having tough phone calls. I remember when I quit my SiriusXM job, it was similar. Like, how do I make this phone call? You're not going to find the perfect words. You're just not. It's just not going to happen. So you just have to do this. Okay. Where it's happening. It's happening. Okay. It's happening. I won't record the call though. Okay. Maybe he won't answer. I know my neighbors were like, what is she? My neighbors actually, I think, are kind of used to me recording myself in my vehicle. I think they're used to it at this point. So that's where you get bonus content, is patreon.com/thisisjen. All of these links I'm giving out, by the way, are in the show notes. Patreon.com/thisisjen. That's from this episode 102. I believe. Yeah, that is episode 102 of the Village Hustle Patreon. This is the Jen Fulwiler Show, coming to you from Austin, Texas. I am your host, Jen. I am a stand-up comic, best-selling author, and mom of 6. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the Village Hustle. That is being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. We publish new episodes every Wednesday. Our lovely producer is Caitlin White. And is there anything else I usually say? The Patreon, but I already did that. So what I was trying to look up is, I found the perfect way to describe this podcast. I put it on Instagram stories, and I was looking to see. Oh, I guess I missed it. Okay, I guess I didn't download it. Let me see if I can describe it from memory. It was, a stand-up comic uses evolutionary psychology and Catholic intellectual tradition to make moms feel better about life.
Oh.
That's good,
Yeah.
right? If that is not this podcast, and that sounds like something with a massive market. I mean, everyone's like, I've been looking for a stand-up comic. Who else? It's just a massive demand for people to know more about how evolutionary psychology jibes with historical Catholic teaching. I know especially as it relates to women and mothers. I know there's just a big demand for that, and that explains why I'm so rich. That really, I think makes it pretty clear to us. A couple of quick updates before we get into the drama from the Catholic ghetto. You might notice I'm not drinking from the mead horn. It seemed like such a good idea. I thought this was going to be a constant thing in this show, because it very much fits with my life to have that be my drinking apparatus, the drink of the Vikings that they would drink after their great sagas. But as we realized, I think what was that, 2 episodes ago?
Yeah,
I think it's an actual animal horn. I thought this would be some silly Temu plastic. I think it's an actual horn. And there were some chunks in it, and I just because I forget. The Vikings were probably okay with that. I think they were less delicate than I am. So now we're back to just the cans of whatever I am drinking. So I think we're having to retire the mead horn until I can get one that is plastic. Also, the Vikings really should have thought about maybe making one that you can set down, because I had to have a whole stand for it because it is a horn. Anyway, you guys really missed. If you didn't look up YouTube, it was like episodes 262 to 265 or something. It was, you can see that. Just a reminder that in the show notes, we now put a link that goes directly to this exact episode on YouTube. If you want to see the media we're talking about, if you're listening to an old episode and you want to actually see the mead horn. I just have a funny story that I've been dying to tell you guys. So I was talking to a comedian friend who she's a successful stand-up comic, and she has a day job in social work, and she helps people. She's worked with homeless people and things like that. And she does great work helping them connect with their services and all that. And we were just doing some vision boarding about future and some options, the kind of coming up with a 5-year plan, 10-year plan sort of thing. She knows that I love that sort of thing. So we were thinking out loud, 5 years, 10 years down the road, how could you maybe put together a resume now that would be really compelling if you wanted to make a shift at some point? And I said, even if you're looking at different fields, I think the fact that you have worked with some of the most mentally ill and drug addicted people in the world and handled that with grace is really compelling, and could be compelling to an employer in any field. And she thought about it and she said, and then I could also mention my social work as well. She thought I was talking about dealing with stand-up comics. I have not stopped laughing about this. And it's so accurate. It's so accurate. I just kept replaying that conversation when I'm like, you have worked with some of the most mentally ill, drug-addicted people in the world. And she's like, I also did social work. The most amazing moment of my life. Okay. I did, and I actually thought of my podcast listeners. I was like, I've got to tell my podcast listeners this is so funny. Okay, listen. So there is 2 friends of mine were involved in a big controversy. So this is an exciting day for me because I'm friends with both of the people involved in this. I mean, I don't know. It's not like we're BFFs, talk all the time. I wish we were, but it's that we're online. We're Instagram friends. Okay. So this is Christy Horton. I've actually mentioned her before on this site. She is a mom of 6 and her kids are little, and she has the most graceful, humble, open, authentic Instagram account. I love it so much. She is everything I was not as a mother of 6 young children. I brought her up a few weeks ago, earlier this summer, and I was just laughing how my take on that season of life was so vastly different than hers, because she'll go on there. I think she has 6 kids under 10 or something like that, and she'll be holding a baby and just say, yes, I don't get a whole lot of sleep, but I just, I understand that this season goes by so fast, and it's just, we're blessed, and it's wonderful. And you guys, this is authentically her. She is not being a fraud. I mean, this is who she is, and it is such a beautiful witness, and she's so wonderful. And I demand that everyone follows her. Horton Lane is her Instagram account. She's also on YouTube, TikTok. Go follow her. But I was just laughing. I mean, and her house is beautiful in the background, although she is totally open about the fact it doesn't always look that way. She's so authentic. I love it. If that had been me, I'm so blessed that we didn't have Reels and TikTok when my youngest was a baby. It would have been me looking like Nosferatu, just like I have just risen out of a coffin. There would be absolute chaos in the background behind me. I'd be holding a baby. My insane 5th child would be like, she'd probably would have found a can of paint that she is splashing across the walls in the background, and I'd be like, I am in hell, help me. And I want to be clear, love being a mom, love my kids, always felt that way. That has never changed. But the chaos of it, I feel like we're really like, we need 10 nannies in here immediately. I cannot do this. And so anyway, I just always laugh when I see her account. I'm like, some people are just good at this. She doesn't know how good at this she is. And it's also an opportunity for gratitude that there were not reels in that. And that it's good that I was just behind a blogging screen, because my house would, it just wouldn't have been good. Okay. So, so she's talking to Lila Rose. Have you heard of Lila Rose?
No.
Okay. All right. So this is for my non-Catholic ghetto listeners. Lila Rose, the thing that most people know her for is she exposed a bunch of stuff when she would go into, I don't know what's going to get me dinged on YouTube. She would go into Planned Parenthood and such places, and she looked young for her age. And so even though she was 18 or 19, she would say that she was 14 and had a 30-year-old boyfriend, and she would catch them helping to cover up these kind of situations. So that's Lila Rose. All right, what you're about to hear or see, if you are one of my 5 YouTube viewers, is Chrissy Horton talking to Lila Rose on Lila Rose's podcast. And this is a mashup. It's a clip of a bunch of different conversations that they had. Let's take a listen.
Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz?
I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, when's Mass?
What about the man needing sex? That's just a cultural narrative that basically says men are like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile men's men. Some of the most masculine men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
It's a gift
of coming together, and it's designed to bring life into the world.
I think the sexiest thing about a guy is like their self-control. And my husband has amazing self-control. So after baby number 4, when we started practicing NFP, it was like we couldn't do it sometimes when we wanted to. And that kind of made things a little steamier, like not gonna lie. It's hard on him too, don't get me wrong. People will say, well, do you just do other things for your husband?
I think at least one of them, but maybe both of them, will be at my San Diego show. Not to make this about me. I'm not, far be it from me to be like jfcomedytour.com. There might be some celebs at my show, but we'll see if we can get them both out to my San Diego show. Okay, there are 2 controversies here. One is what was said about Father Mike Schmitz, and then the second was the men don't need sex comment. We are going to talk about both. Okay, that's something that I learned on the internet last week. I did not know that you could not say that Father Mike Schmitz is hot. I thought that was news. That I didn't know. And I mean, he's very famous. I meant to actually say, I think my ticket into Catholic ghetto legitimacy, that no one can ever question my Catholic ghetto street cred, is that one time when I was on stage at an event, I'm buds with Father Mike Schmitz. I mean, we're not like best friends, but it's, I'm buds with him. And he, Caitlin, pull this up. You guys should look this up on YouTube. He took my phone and took a bunch of selfies of himself. And oops. No, not that one. That's there. Okay. Now listen. And some of them are favorited, as you can see from the script, because I put it on Instagram. That's why. Okay, that doesn't look good. No, but he's not hot. We can't say he's hot. Oh no. What? My mind's a blank. Like, what are you talking about? No, I favorited them because I'm no fool, and I put a few of them on Instagram and got better engagement than I had gotten in 5 years. So that is no one can ever say that I am not part of the Catholic ghetto. Okay. And Caitlin, now pull up he's the Bible of the Year podcast. Pull that. Yeah. And your mind's a blank when you see that picture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what? You don't notice anything about it. It's just, he's just a guy. You'd never think that's a good looking man. How interesting that he's a priest, right? I mean, it's not. It's It's funny when I played that clip for Caitlin when we were setting up the podcast. She didn't know what the controversy was because she's normal and not an insane person. And when she heard that line of Chrissy saying that her friend said, "Oh, when's mass?" Caitlin was like, "I know that's right." She was ready to convert to Catholicism, but you guys ruined it for her. Caitlin was like, "I didn't know that priests were that hot. I'm joining our CIA tomorrow. I'm devoting my life to the Catholic Church." And now she's not. Now she's going back to being a heathen because you guys are clutching your pearls about this situation.
Oh my God.
I would just like to, may I opine on this? I would just like to say that sometimes hotness is part of the ministry. I think I think it is an interesting witness. And I say this as someone who is a lifelong atheist. I think it is an interesting witness. And the world finds it interesting when you see a man who is dashingly good looking. He was, I think this is public. I think it's, I'm pretty sure this is public, that he was quite literally almost a movie star. He was the second choice to be cast in a very, very famous film franchise, and he almost got it. And when he didn't, that's part of what led him to the priesthood. So when we say movie star good looks, that's just a fact. That is Hollywood thought that he had movie star good looks. So this is a man who has options. And we live in a culture where having options with women is considered, frankly, that is the golden calf that our culture worships. And there is this idea that people who have options, they will choose those options. And then those of us who are just idiots and messes and constantly screw up our own lives, we become religious because we can't handle it. There are 600 comment threads about how, like, I'm an idiot and that's why I became Catholic, because only people who have no options and are down on their luck, that's the only reason that people become Catholic. And so it's a very interesting witness to the world when someone who had what our current secular culture prizes above all not only walked away from it to just be into the God thing, but chose a celibate vocation where he is giving up everything. And also, he's giving up money, all the money from the Bible in the Year podcast. Father Mike Schmitz is not driving a Ferrari around. He's not like iced out with all his bling. This is going to his ministry. I don't know exactly what his finances are, but I guarantee you that guy lives modestly with his intelligence and good looks and all that. He could have been on top of the world from a secular perspective, just driving fancy cars, hanging out with beautiful women, whatever. But he gave it all up. Sex, money, everything for God. I think a lot of people convert to Catholicism just based on that. They're like, my whole worldview is wrong, because there has to be something with this church. And I think it's specifically a witness for the real presence of the Eucharist, because that's something that I kind of found interesting as an atheist. And yes, I'm actually talking to my non-Catholic ghetto listeners here. I know it sounds crazy, but oddly enough, this one was actually pretty easy for me to believe as an atheist. But we believe that what looks like the communion wafer is the actual presence of Christ. It is not a symbol. It is the actual, like, people have died over it. It is the real deal. And so in Catholicism, our masses are not just about the preaching. Like, when we would come home from mass, my Baptist mother-in-law would always be like, "What'd the preacher preach on?" And it's like, well, that's not, we go for the Eucharist. It's not like just, for what the guy says. And so it makes you think, this guy's got to really believe that he is bringing Christ truly present into this building. Because if he just wanted to get up there and talk in front of a bunch of people, well, he could have done that without giving up money and, everything else. It's such an interesting witness that someone who had so many options chooses this and walks away from everything in the world. And I think there are other types of witness as well. For example, I talked to a priest a while back who has his master's in nuclear engineering. crazy, like crazy smart. I also, and then I've mentioned before that I was friends with a priest who was, God rest his soul, he passed away, but he was at Harvard. He was a scholar at Harvard and left everything to become a Catholic priest. And I think that in those cases, their witness, not as much hotness. I'm not saying they're not. Okay, well, now I'm making it weird by like listing which priests are hot and which are not. Now I made it weird. But I think that extreme intelligence, that is another thing that our culture prizes, is just people who had options, who had something that had a ton of worth in the secular world that you could have used to accumulate a lot of worldly pleasures and worldly just money and comfort and ease and all those things. And you give it up to be celibate and to give your whole life to God and this church. And keep in mind too, the Catholic priesthood, there's a lot of obedience. If your bishop says that you need to move to this city or do that, you have to do that. Father Mike Schmidt's bishop could say tomorrow that he has to go move to this place or not take speaking engagements or whatever, and he would have to do it. And he's a solid guy. He would. If his bishop told him to do that, he would. So they're not just giving up sex and money. I mean, they're giving up freedom of their lives. They give up everything. And yes, I think it is an interesting witness if they have some extreme characteristic that is highly valued by the world. Maybe they're an incredible artist, an incredible singer, photographer, musician, whatever. I think it's fine if this is part of the witness. Now, I can read you guys' minds. Someone is going to say, actually, because everyone said it in the comments, how would you guys like it if someone said that about a nun? It is, I would not expect this from Catholics, because we are some of the last people on planet Earth who believe that there are two genders and there are differences between them, and that those differences should be honored. And can we all admit, and men, I'm about to stand up for you here in a minute, so just give me a second. But men, can we all admit that male sexuality has a little bit of a more predatory feel? Like if you look at your local sex offenders list, not as many women on there. 99 out of 100 people on those kinds of lists are men. It's male sexuality has a different tone to it. Men commenting on women's attractiveness has a different tone than two married women who are known to be devoted to their families. Frankly, both of them, Lila and Chrissy, their whole public presence is about how much they love their families, they love their children, they love their husbands. So I think that if you take if a group of single guys were saying that nun is hot, okay, that has a different tone than two faithfully Catholic, devoted mothers saying, oh, my friend saw Father Mike Schmitz and was like, when's mass? That has a different tone, and we all know it has a different tone. And so that's why it is not an accurate analogy to say men talking about a nun would be the same thing. There are different tones when men and women talk about people's attractiveness. Okay, so now that I've got that all clear, I'm solving all of this for you guys. So everybody take notes, because this is just, how is this podcast free? We can't figure it out. I'm just sad that the controversy didn't break before last week's episode, because I could have cleared this up for everybody much faster. Next, okay, Caitlin, replay. Can you skip ahead to the part where they start saying men don't need sex? This was really the heart of the controversy, was that line, quote unquote, men don't need sex. So replay that part, because we need to make sure we're really listening to what this clip said.
Can we all talk about Father?
We're working on it.
They're like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile men's men. Some of the most masculine men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
It's a gift
of coming together, and it's designed to bring life into the world.
I think the sexiest thing about a guy is like their self-control. And my husband has amazing self-control. So after baby number 4, when we started practicing NFP, it was like we couldn't do it sometimes when we wanted to. And that kind of made things a little steamier, like not gonna lie. It's hard on him too, don't get me wrong. People will say, well, oh, do you just do other things for your husband?
I didn't need to listen to that episode. Okay. Again, Chrissy Horton she's such a delight. I love her so much. Go follow her on every platform. So I love her openness there, and I love her honesty. For those of you guys who are not in the Catholic ghetto, NFP stands for Natural Family Planning. That is how you avoid pregnancy, and it's during certain times of the month, you avoid certain things. And a lot of people then say, well, that's contraception. It's not the same thing. And I don't have time to get into it. But suffice it to say, it actually makes a lot of sense. Go read a book on it. I'm not going to debate that. But Chrissy, like many of us, I think if I recall her story correctly, she kind of had to come around on that issue of not using contraception. And if her story is anything like mine, it probably blew her mind. I mean, when I was an atheist, I was like, isn't contraception's like air or water? Like, isn't this like a basic human need? And when I realized that the church was actually right about this, and it made a lot of sense, and it was the most empowering message that women could ever receive, it blew my mind. So that's what NFP stands for, is Natural Family Planning. I wrote about it in my book, Something Other Than God. So go read my book and then come argue with me in the YouTube comments. And by the way, let's not forget that I have a blood clotting disorder that makes pregnancy very dangerous for me. Almost died in my 6th pregnancy, and my life was at grave risk if I had had another pregnancy after that one. And we still didn't use contraception. So that is how seriously I take this issue, and that is how right I think the church is on it. So that is my background on this issue. And Chrissy, from what I understand, I haven't had a chance to watch the whole interview, but from what I understand, she was trying to get people to see the beauty of this way of living. Frankly, it's kind of an alternative lifestyle. It is closer to being Amish than it is to just living life like normal people. You really do have to think of it almost as a whole alternative lifestyle. And I think that the point that she and Lila were trying to make was that the people who are not Catholic really rebel against this idea, like, abstinence? You mean there are some days of the month that we can't? They have a lot of questions, which I understand. And I think that is what they were trying to get at with the quote unquote men don't need sex comment. I think they were talking about that backlash that they get. And I think what they were trying to do is go against the cultural grain that does paint men as kind of animals with no self-control, that says, if a guy isn't looking at crazy things on the internet and doing crazy things in response to it 5 times a day, he just can't be alive. And as someone in stand-up comedy who hears what the young men of our era are talking about, I will say that idea is very much out there, that's just something men all day, every day. That's just what they need to be doing, and there's no way around it. And I think that's a very demeaning message for men. I think it's a message that is ultimately negatively impacts women and that sort of thing. So I think that is what they were trying to get at, is they were going against the demeaning message that says that men spontaneously combust if they're not doing that. I did not mean, I did not. Moving on. Spontaneous combustion is where you catch on fire. Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
If we ever edited this podcast, that would be an edit, but we don't. Okay, so it's hard to talk about these subjects because then you end up saying some double entendre. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why men were so mad. I did not. And when I say they were so mad, I don't think I have ever seen the internet be so nasty and toxic, and that's really saying something. But over on X, which I refuse to call X, so we'll call it Twitter, over on Twitter, the response that they got in response to this, it was crazy. I really don't think I have ever seen such, frankly, an emotional, angry reaction to anything. Not Trump, not Biden, it's crazy, the reaction. And what's interesting too is there was a lot of emotion in it, where a lot of the men were being irrational. They were saying, I'm disgusted by these women talking about how much they delight in withholding intimacy from their husbands. And it's like, what? They didn't say that. You guys are going crazy. So I tried to respond with curiosity, because I just wasn't tracking with this anger. I just did not understand it at all. I tried to respond with curiosity, like what is it that is making men so angry about this situation? And I finally found one reasonable comment. One out of like 2,000. So, and this guy helped me understand what was so upsetting to men about that clip. And since I have a fair number of female listeners to this podcast, so let's face it, it's mostly women. Women, listen up, because I think this is interesting, and I think this could be an interesting conversation for you to have with your husband. Okay, so this commenter says, I think this is a little bit flippant about men's needs. Priests can give up sexual activity because of the supernatural grace of their calling gives them the grace to focus those energies elsewhere. Married men connect to their wives through sexual intimacy. Now, there are times when a married man, for the sake of the higher good of his wife's health, her emotional state, little kids, childbirth, financial struggles, whatever, needs that same supernatural grace to abstain. But I fear that the way this is clipped will give some struggling wives and husbands the impression that sex isn't naturally or usually a consistent requirement in a healthy marriage. God forbid a wife say something like what Lila said when a husband legitimately desires to connect with his wife. I think the way Lila phrased this could have been more careful, is what he said. PG-13 warning, by the way. It's a little late.
Put it before.
There's so many edits we need for this podcast. Like the very don't listen to this one with your kids around. Sorry.
We'll just put a warning.
Listen, guys, you need to. I've got a lot going on. Okay, my life continues to be an absolute on fire dumpster fire. I'm just learning to handle it better, but I don't have the mental bandwidth to be giving you guys PG-13 warnings before my content. I'll put it in the show notes. Help me.
Yeah.
Help me remember that. Well, surprise, young children. You're learning a lot today on the Jen Fulwiler show. Okay. So listen, I thought that was really interesting. And I do think as a woman, I totally track with this guy on his perspective. And I do think that it is a blind spot for a lot of women, especially women who are mothers and especially women who have young children. You can become, in certain seasons when you are broke and your kids never sleep and it's just one problem after another. And if you have a kid with even the slightest special needs on top of it, you can become almost an asexual being in your mind. You're like, I forget how reproduction even happens. I think these kids got here through asexual reproduction, like amoeba. Like I don't even remember how this happened. And I think that it can be a blind spot for women that, hey, when that's not happening in a marriage, from a woman's perspective, that would be like if your husband just stopped talking to you, just no talking, no asking how your day was, no nothing, just like barely even looked at you and then just went about his business and totally ignored you. That would be very hurtful to women. We wouldn't feel taken care of. We wouldn't feel connected. And it's so important to remember that men, a lot of times physical, I would say even just physical touch, hugs, things like it doesn't always have to PG-13 warning. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but men just generally they're kind of physically oriented. And I think that when you are in the thick of it and you are in the trenches and you're in any kind of survival mode, I would say both men and women can forget the needs of the other gender because your mind is just maxed out 24/7. And so once I got to the bottom of all of the anger in response to that clip, I did see why it hit. And I did see why I, as a woman, had a blind spot because I haven't been on the receiving end of that kind of pain because I'm not a man. it was easy for me to understand what they meant. And I do think they meant absolutely well. I think that they were trying to make the case for natural family planning, which is an incredible thing. It's wonderful. But I see why it hit wrong for men. I was imagining if podcast bros, well, it's like with a lot of the podcast bro stuff that annoys me to death. If they were to say something like, you don't have to talk to your wife, she should be cooking and cleaning, and women don't need to be talked to or whatever. Again, that's not a direct analogy because they meant well, unlike the podcast bros, and that it's not equivalent what they said. But if I were to see someone who I didn't know saying that women don't need emotional intimacy, you don't have to ask them about their day. I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, I guess you don't die without that. I won't say spontaneously combust again. It's not that you would die without it, but it would strike me as like, but a lot of women are in great need of that and they're not receiving it. And I know of that pain that women feel. And I feel like they're not focusing enough on that pain and hearing what women are going through who feel ignored by their spouses, who feel like their spouses are distant. And yeah, I might have an emotional response to that because there is a lot of pent up pain in that department. So this is public servants announcement to my female listeners and my 5 YouTube viewers. Women, you should ask your husbands what they think of this. I think it, especially if you are in the trenches in any way in life and you guys have been like ships passing in the night, everyone's running around. Ask your husband what he thinks of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it leads to a good discussion where he's like, could we please fix this? Help? Because that I did end up finding a couple of other reasonable men in the comments who weren't flipping out and being hysterical about it and just saying, look, when you're a husband and father and you're trying to do the right thing and you hang out with your buddies who are also good men, good husbands, good fathers, you do hear a lot of stories of men who are in a lot of really deep pain that they feel neglected, but they're so kind. They're so sweet. They don't want to be a bad guy. They don't want to put any pressure on their wives, but it's really causing them a lot of angst and just making them not feel connected and not feel loved. So public service announcement, just ask your husbands what they think about that. And because there is evidently a lot of pain out there on this subject. And I admit I had a blind spot about it as a woman. I just did not realize that. And I think it's especially true for people in their 20s and 30s they're in that building phase where everything's difficult and everything's crazy. And so that was educational to me. I did not understand how much pain there is among men out there. And I thought it was very interesting. Okay. So, and again, follow those gals. They're lovely. And I think at least one of them is going to be at my San Diego show, jfcomedytour.com. Okay. No refunds if you already bought tickets. So let's play. I really like following Hattie Willoughby. She's one of these motivational influencers who I follow, and she's one of those kick in the pants, like, you guys need to stop making excuses and getting it done. And I think there is a place for these messages, and I think we can follow people like this and we can be inspired by them. But for us village people, meaning people who are, we're focused on family and community and building in that particular way, we are going to have to execute this advice differently than other people do. And yes, just like with the influencer family who has 5 kids and I played their video a while back that they get up at 5 a.m. every day. Yes, there are people with families who can have perfect habits, but I have made the case, I think they're genetic freaks. I think there is like something is messed up in their brain, and it can be a good thing. I mean, Michael Jordan, he was a genetic freak. You shouldn't be able to do what he did on the basketball court. I mean, this is, there are people who it's not a bad thing, but most people are not wired this way. And I do think that some people just have a certain brain wiring that they can be like robots when it comes to their habits, but that is not the average person. And they are the aberration. They are outside the norm, and the rest of us are normal if we can't do the perfect 5 a.m. routine every morning. Okay, so let's listen to this motivational clip here.
Decide the goal, then make your environment agree, or stop pretending you want it. Let's stop lying. You are not stuck. You're undecided. You want to work out in the morning? Set the scene tonight. Clothes laid out, shoes by the door, your pre-workout on your nightstand, your phone's across the room with an alarm that says, get up, future you is watching. If it's not staged before bed, you didn't decide. You want to lose fat? Clear the pantry. Stop hosting Oreos. Prep your protein. It should be eye level in the fridge. Fill your water bottle. Delete DoorDash and Uber Eats off of your phone. If it's in the house, you know it's in your body. So don't buy it if you don't want to wear it. You have money goals? You have savings goals? Unsubscribe from all those sales emails. Delete the shopping apps. Freeze your card. Everything goes on a 72-hour list in your notes app.
All right.
If it can't survive 72 hours...
We get the idea. These are all actually good tips. And I like following accounts like this because sometimes all of us do need that kick in the pants of saying, is there an area that you want to change? Maybe you need to take some massive action here. Maybe it's time to get up off the couch, stop making excuses, make things happen. There's absolutely a place for that. But I think it is so important to accept that for those of us who are in the middle of the bell curve, which is most of us, we're not on the extreme of just one end of the other or one end or the other, that we're not able to have our perfect 5 a.m. habits. And, you know, we're also not, I mean, we are able to occasionally dress ourselves. we're right there in the middle. We're somewhere in between. And for those of us who are in the middle and who live a normal modern life, especially a family life or any kind of life where you're trying to build any kind of village or community, you are probably not going to be able to keep up with these efforts for a long period of time. So the first example that Hattie gave was, she said, setting out your shoes the night before if you want to start a workout routine, go running, go to the gym or whatever. This is true. This is a great idea. I did that for a while when I was, you guys know, I work out with my trainer, and I was setting everything out the night before, and that lasted for 2 weeks. And and here's what happens in real life is we only have so much mental energy in a day. It is finite, and it does take a burst of energy to break out of inertia and do something extra. So go find the shoes and get a clean pair of socks and set them out, and go find your workout clothes, which for me, I guess this is probably not relatable, but workout keeping up with my regular clothes is enough. Workout clothes get stuffed into a box in my closet. I have a small closet. We live in a 1,900 square foot house. And so I'll be trying to pull out my workout shorts, but then it's some winter jacket falls out, winter workout jacket falls out. Everything's falling out. Now I'm mad, and now I'm cursing, and like I can't find anything. And then I give up, and then I forget about it. And then the next morning I don't have any of my stuff and I'm late. That's how it goes for me. But, that takes mental energy to break through that inertia and to bring order to chaos. Oh, hit the great insight that just hit me. This is, we cannot figure out how this podcast is free. A lot of times God inspires me with these insights while we're live on the air. I can't believe that this other podcasts have millions of views and they're talking about like literally what they ate for lunch. Okay. So, I think that each of us only have a set amount of energy each day to bring order to chaos. I think of it as a token, like at Chuck E. Cheese, you know? Your mom gives you 10 tokens, and you can use a couple to ride on that one germ covered ride, or a couple like for the other. But you only have so many tokens. And I think we each get just a set amount of tokens that we can use to bring order to chaos each day. And if your life is anything like mine, the chaos machine that takes 10 tokens to operate when you only had 6 rears its ugly head to life like 3 times a week. And so here's how it happens. You say, let's say you've gained a few pounds and you want to get in shape. You used to be in shape and now you're not. And you see influencers who say that, you should be in shape and you just have to have habits. And so you say, yeah, okay. All right, great. I will. And you're really dedicated and you set out your workout clothes and all that. So that's 1 token. Okay. You took 1 Chuck E. Cheese token. You brought order to that chaos. Okay. Now let's say you have 5 left. And then you realize that you forgot to thaw the meat for dinner. And you've got kids and they are hungry. And we are now back in the school year where there's this tension of, well, they really need to go to sleep. So if it takes me forever to cook something, now they're staying up late. Then they'll be tired tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, and then you realize you forgot. Speaking of laundry, that was a big topic from last episode. You realize, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to start the kids' laundry and they have nothing to wear to school tomorrow. So, okay, wait. Now I have to start the laundry and figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And then you're broke and you're like, we can't just DoorDash it. That is not in the budget. Anyone who says that money doesn't solve problems, they have no idea. And so, you're just trying to think, and then you're thinking about how the influencers would judge you if you put in a frozen pizza. They're like, well, you're not feeding your kids organic food. You're killing your kids with this gluten. It's like, which is it? Should I set out my workout clothes or make wholesome meals? I do not have time to do all of this. Okay, so you've spent like 4 tokens just dealing with that situation. You spent 1 on setting out the workout clothes. And then one of your kids says they're being bullied at school and you have to think about like, whoa, okay, should I take this directly to the principal or should I? Okay, I'm going to start by emailing the teacher that they're in the class. We have to deal with this. And that's this whole expenditure of energy that we have to bring order to this situation. This is really serious. And then another kid is saying, hey, all I have to do is build an exact replica of Vatican City with toothpicks. And it's due tomorrow, but don't worry, Mom. It's 8:30 p.m. I think we have plenty of time, and so that's 50 chaos tokens. So now you're like borrowing. You're going into debt with your chaos tokens. That is why you stop setting out your freaking clothes, because there's only so many times in a day that you can bring order to chaos. And if you have a job, you're probably doing that at your job too. And so if things go smoothly, let's say the kids are doing great at school and your kids are getting along, you and your husband are getting along, the food plan is great, you feel good about the nutritious meals that you're providing for your family every night, things are fine with your job. Your boss is cool. You enjoy the work you do. And the kids are doing their chores. So everybody comes home and the house is pretty tidy. If you have a week like that, and we do, once every 10 years, we all have weeks that go that smoothly, then yeah, you can probably set out your workout clothes the night before or whatever, or make your new savings plan or whatever it is. But you're probably going to run out of deal with chaos tokens on the typical week. And the only way in the past that people got their habits taken care of is they were provided to you by the village. If you look 10,000 years ago, the men would go out for the hunt. It wasn't one dude alone saying it's part of my life plan. It's part of my daily plan that I go out and I hunt this buffalo personally. It's like, no, the men are heading out. That's what you do. They'll kill you or outcast you from the village if you don't engage in what you're supposed to be doing. And then the women would go as a group. The teen girls would watch the little kids, and then the women they'd go down to the river and they'd wash their clothes, they'd exchange information, they'd gossip, they'd get some good info, they'd chat, they'd sing songs, and frankly, they'd pass down generational stories of, yes, great-grandmother so-and-so, whatever, fought this bear one time. They'd have these moments of cultural cohesion. But again, it wasn't one woman on her grind deciding to walk down to the river to wash her clothes. That's just what the village did. Your habits have always in human history been handed to you by the village. You didn't really have a choice. And I say again, standard caveat, I am not romanticizing that. I would die. I would be the one rejected from the village. I'd be like, I ain't going to wash no laundry today. This is like, no, I'm going to, whatever the Bronze Age equivalent of scrolling social media would be. I'm going to draw things in the dirt and look at and then judge other people's drawings in the dirt. I would find a way not to do it, and I would die young for sure. So I am not romanticizing it and saying that was the perfect life. I am just saying that is what we evolved to need. This is what we have evolved to need if we're going to have consistent habits, is a village who forces us to do these habits. Okay, you don't have a village. Again, we have so many advantages in modern life. It's great. Our lives are great. It's great. So what do? I'm not being a total downer here and being like, give up, don't ever try to make progress because you don't have a village. No, I think that we should accept that we will only be able to do these kind of habits in spurts. I think we should accept the sprint model. I think that we should accept that we will be able to sprint and have some great atomic habits, but it will probably only last a few weeks before the chaos overtakes us like a tsunami, and we are spending all of our bringing order to chaos tokens elsewhere. I think saying 6 tokens wasn't accurate. Let's say you have a pile of tokens, and sometimes just this, it does feel like a tsunami when you have to deal with so many things as a parent. You've got like, where'd that credit card bill come? Was our credit card stolen? How is that number that high? And then you look at the purchases and you're like, no, that was us. Like, boy, Sephora sure is on there a lot. Like, how did that happen? And that was unexpected. You didn't expect to have to spend a handful of chaos tokens on that. Like, okay, this is a problem. We got to deal with this credit card bill. Now you have behavioral issues with your kids, or you're worried that one of your kids might have special needs. Like now you need to have them evaluated. Maybe a kid just has the flu. They're not dealing well, they're not feeling well. And you have to make a doctor appointment for them. Oh, their doctor can't see them. Okay, now, well, we got to find a different doctor, find a way to get them in that works for their schedule and for your schedule. Do you see how all of these unexpected things that come up as part of normal life all the time, these waves of chaos hit you? Think of it as waves of chaos. First, it's a kid gets sick. While you're dealing with that, it's an unexpectedly big credit card bill. Then your husband comes home and says he's worried that there are going to be layoffs at the company and that you guys need to start really thinking about what that means for the future. And then a car breaks down. It's like, these are waves of chaos that hit you intermittently, and they cost chaos tokens. You have to take from your finite pile of Chuck E. Cheese dealing with chaos tokens and go put them into the machine to deal with this situation. And at some point, you look at your little plan that you wrote up in Notes app where you say, I am going to run every morning so that I can be the fittest version of myself. And you throw your head back in bitter laughter because there's no way that's going to happen. And then these women, my podcast listeners who I adore so much, then they feel shame. Can you even imagine? They feel shame. You guys feel shame that you didn't keep up with your workout routine. Who could with all the chaos that you guys deal with? And again, this is why those of us who really prioritize village, whether that's your family or if you don't have kids, your extended family, your community, we get hit by this more because the more people are in your life, the more of this you're going to have to deal with. If you're a single influencer guy, you're 25, you don't have kids, you're not married, you're not dating anyone, let's be real. That guy has a smaller number of waves of chaos that are crashing over him every day. He gets the same size pile as you do for the dealing with chaos tokens, but he has to spend fewer of them because he doesn't have kids. He doesn't have a spouse. He doesn't have this other stuff going on. So yeah, he has some extra tokens left over to be able to run 365 days a year in all weather and all that. Yeah, he's got extra tokens. That's why he's able to get it done. And I hate it that you guys feel guilty. Like, I'm so lazy. I'm so undisciplined. If I really cared about getting back to my peak fitness shape or whatever. No, of course you care. Of course you care. Of course you want that. But you are spending all your chaos tokens on these other situations. You don't have any left. That's why you didn't set out the workout clothes. Because you did not have any chaos tokens left to deal with. So it's amazing what can happen when you stop blaming yourself and you stop feeling all of this shame. It's amazing what can happen. Because you can start to accept that you probably won't be able to do this for 365 days. And you can accept that's actually a good sign. It means you're connected to your community. You have a lot of people's lives that are impacting yours and yours are impacting them. It's a beautiful system of interconnectedness. And because of this interconnectedness, you are hit with more waves of chaos than people who have less interconnectedness. And so next time you realize you had some habit that you had committed to that you didn't follow through with, you can just smile and say, yeah, that's village life. That is life. That is a life of interconnectedness. I'm dealing with a lot. I'm trying to take care of these little people. I'm trying to take care of my spouse. I just found out that men need sex way more than I thought from the Lila Rose Chrissy Horton thing. Oh boy, new things on my to-do list here. You should see it as a positive thing that, yeah, the reason you didn't stick with the gym commitment is because you're dealing with this credit card bill and the kid who got sick and the kid who might have special needs. And it's because you care. It's because you're such a loving person that you spent all your Chuck E. Cheese tokens on other things in other areas. Okay, so what do we do? I think that we can hit fitness goals or whatever, but we have to accept that for us village people, it will be more of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back process, and that it will happen in sprints. And just like running sprinters, they sprint a little bit and then they take a break and then they do their next race, as opposed to marathon runners. I guess. I mean, I don't like I've ever moved my body in my life. I mean, I wouldn't know. But yeah, they sprint, like they run really, that's what they do, right? They run really fast for a short period of time, and they don't expect that they are going to keep up at this speed for 20 miles. It's a short journey, and then they stop and they catch their breath. So next time, let's say you're trying to get in shape and you've got the workout DVD that you're going to try to do in your basement. I think what you should do is just say, we'll do 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Or if you're in major survival mode, maybe 1 week on, 3 weeks off. I mean, maybe that is all you can do. But you say, all right, I'm going to sprint. Okay. Just this week, I will do it 3 mornings a week. I'll go down to the basement. I'll do my workout video. And I think I can commit to that. I can stave off some of the chaos waves, and just maybe there are a couple things you can put off. You say to your spouse, look, I'm happy to have this conversation about budget or about your job or whatever. I'm trying to conserve some energy to meet some goals this week. Could we have that conversation next week? I'm kind of trying to minimize my stress here. And so you make this a big push. You sprint, you plan to sprint, and then you accept next week, if I feel like it, I will. Maybe you will feel spontaneously inspired, but there is zero expectation. You're doing 1 week off, 3 weeks. Wait, 1 week on, 3 week off, 3 weeks off. It's a tongue twister. And you can do whatever works for you. Maybe you have a little more bandwidth, so you could do 1 month on and 2 weeks off or something like that. But I think the sprint model is the only one that is realistic. And again, I like to remind people of that I have accomplished a few things, because whenever I talk about this stuff on social media, I have people that I should find that comment. Someone who was like, if you're not committed to your goals, just say so. I got that one when I said ice baths are stupid. I wrote a best-selling book that has more than 2,000 reviews on Amazon in the midst of having 6 babies in 8 years, and I did not have a nanny. I had occasional babysitters that would come a few hours here and a few hours there. I did not have much help. And I wrote a book that has done very well. And then I wrote another book that one has over 1,000, and I think Blue Flame has almost 1,000. And I did this, and a little bit later had a daily national radio show that was just me. I did not have a co-host. I didn't have an on-air producer. Daily, 2 hours a day, every day, all in the midst of having all these little kids. I only say that to remind people who are going to come at me for this, that I know a few things about getting things done when you are a parent and you're trying to balance all this interconnectedness with all of these people and all the waves of chaos that hit you. And I know it is ideal to be consistent. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I think that we should all get up at the same time every day and do our journaling and our prayer and our meditation and plan our day and do our ice baths and get our workouts in. I mean, I actually don't. I mean, I agree that regular working out is better to do some kind of physical activity. But again, remember that this is the podcast where we combine evolutionary psychology with Catholic intellectual tradition. Remember, I mean, people... Okay, this is getting too nerdy, but if you want to look at humans who lived agriculture, post-agriculture, actually, but this is even true for hunter-gatherers, that different animals were around in different seasons. So the human body is not expecting a consistent workout routine. There are times of harvest, there are times of planting for hunter-gatherers, there are times when there are a whole lot of buffalo, and then there are times when there are fewer buffalo. I don't know, but the point is that humans are, your caveman body is expecting the sprints. It is expecting times of feast and famine. It is expecting that you will not have a perfectly consistent atomic habits routine 365 days a year. We live on a planet that has seasons, that there are times of harvest, there are times of bounty, there are times of winter when we have less and we don't move as much. So I for people who would say you have to be consistent for it to work, I just don't think you do. I don't think your body is expecting that. And I certainly think that accepting the sprint model and not expecting perfect consistency from yourself and not feeling guilty in any way when you can't keep up with this, preparing yourself for success to meet your goals, to set your running shoes out or whatever. I just think that it's totally normal that when we aren't able to do those things, and that when you can let go of that shame and guilt and accept the sprint model, you will be amazed at how much opens up for you. So just remember, you have a finite amount of Chuck E. Cheese dealing with chaos tokens, and the reason that you find it you find it hard to be consistent with these kind of things is because you keep having to spend all these tokens on all these waves of chaos that hit you, and you have to bring order to. Patreon.com/thisisjen is how you support this podcast, get bonus content. We are actually rolling right into the after party where I keep talking on one of these subjects. I share more details. I talk about maybe a personal angle that I didn't want to say on the air, that sort of thing. So go sign up, patreon.com/thisisjen, and we will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.